And hello, everybody. Welcome to the Refresh Point. My name is Ben, and as always, I'm joined by my constant co-host, Steve. Steve, how's it going?
Doing pretty good. We're getting to the end of the first competitive season of the year. So
And maybe the last Springfest ever, given that the next season goes until March.
well,
Or maybe they'll make it like
maybe it'll
like
rotate.
April,
yeah,
May.
push forward. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
We'll see.
we're ready to give out grades. We're here to judge. We're here to say
It's coming to the end of the semester.
that's right.
The
school
summer
year,
break is in the eyes.
That's right. The school year is ended here in Texas. So we are ready to issue the final grades.
Final grades are coming out.
Did you do everything you were supposed to do, or did you let us down as usual?
That's right. So going into the summer breaks of sorts, we're going to have a report card for everybody that's not in America and is unfamiliar with the generic lower education system. The way that semesters generally work is that you go to school for like a fall from like August to December, and you have a little break. And then from January to May / June, you'll go to school again. And then you have the summer break. And so now that the school year is over, of a sorts, we have a report card for all of our top medalists, near top medalists, and how they did in this spring season. And we're gonna grade them in the American grading system. So I guess we'll bring you up to speed on that too. Avis did well with Eno. She got second place. I did not. Our team beat the shit and died. 12th place, 4-2. So it goes.
Well, you can't make every single cut. Still 12th place. Very reasonable. Very nice performance.
I will say that it was so clear throughout the day that it's like too many weird scenarios where I just haven't played the deck enough, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended 3-3, and our chainsaw player ended 2-4, and our good doctor ended 5-1, as is expected of the good doctor. He's just he can't. He's just winning with Atla, dude. Atla's a good deck. Sokka kills.
I'm concerned about him if the ban list comes down.
Yeah?
He's been one-tricking a little hard.
Dude, he one-tricked Haruhi for 6 years. I think he can pivot.
All right.
I think it's possible for him to pivot off of Avatar.
Yeah, he said he was acquiring some other sets, so
He's been playing Bochi as well.
Yeah.
He's already been playing other decks as well.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And so with that, our off season for both members of the podcast has finally kind of begun, because you were in off season already. I was not. But now we're here. So go ahead and shuffle your decks, tap or cut. And we'll get right into the refresh point with some breaking news. Congratulations to the winners of Belgium and New York. Woo!
Yep. Well done.
You
Well
did
done.
it.
Lots of familiar faces.
Lots
in the
of
top.
familiar faces. And again, shout outs to Avis and her team, and Steve and Scripted for getting second. And Scripted just like apparently like fully eating the shit in finals, or it was a different round or something. Unlucky.
It's just another
congratulations.
Yeah, it's another good sign of how the meta can be somewhat healthy in a Springfest setting when you are given the opportunity to play a deck that people probably aren't too familiar with but has a very solid game plan.
Yeah. We got Chronicle sets. Chronicle sets for Fate and Sword Art Online.
Yeah. These are really nice collector sets. So these were released in JP first. They did Persona 3 and Little Busters.
Yeah.
And
But not these specific like sets, right? It was
correct. It was It was the sets I mentioned.
Right.
So there hasn't been a Sword Art or a Fate Chronicle set to this point. So these will be nice pieces for collectors. I wouldn't say the average Weiss fan is interested in...
It's a one of, right?
It's
like
a one
each
of
card.
every single card. They have a special, unique appearance.
How much is it?
$300.
$300. Okay. Is Graham in that set? Okay. All right. Okay.
To be clear, none of these cards are playable in any context.
What about the anti-early counter? Was that also a set 2 thing?
The only card that's even... There weren't even early plays. What do you mean anti-early? Anti-early win. They have to be an early first. There's no early. So we don't need anti-early when there's no early. These kids, I swear. Early plays. Anyway.
I knew I could play that up for laughs. I knew
None of these cards have any competitive value of any kind. None of them are played.
It's Fate 0 specifically too, right?
0, yes. And Sword Art Online 1. These sets are very near and dear to my heart from a nostalgia perspective. I'm not sure $300 is in the cards for me. I am a huge SAO fan, so of course there's tension in my brain for the Sword Art set. But
hey, I mean, that's cheaper than that Boba deck or Boba Fett deck that you passed me the other day.
True.
I mean, you got that.
Not all at once.
Not all at once.
So yeah, these are nice collector pieces. These make good display pieces. They come in a nice container if they're anything like the Persona 3 and the little Buster sets. So yeah, this is a nice announcement. It's a nice collector piece for the people in Weiss who love collecting.
Yep. Great grading fodder, but also like, hell's to you if you need to try again on any of those. If you wanted to grade any of these, and then like one of them's bad, and you're like, well, I want a new one. Ooh.
It's tough. There will be single sales probably based on how the cards appear.
Yeah, probably.
But it will be complicated.
Yeah, for sure.
Breaking up the set has risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of, well, I guess not collecting, but just expensive cardboard in general, we did it. I have a max rarity Review Starlight list.
Probably the only one on the earth.
Nah. Somebody else has got to have something. It won't be of this build. I'll say that. I don't know that it's possible for somebody else to acquire 4 Hikari secrets and 4 Karen secrets.
Yeah.
Not even that they're not, like, existing in the world, but that they're not for sale. Review Starlight is, like, a set played by review fans and bought by review fans that death grip their review foils closely to their hearts. So, there was a new local, at our Wednesday local that plays review. They're like home from college for the summer, and they're like playing, and they have a Karen secret, and they won't sell it because they like review. It's a Karen secret. You gotta have it.
It's very similar to some of the high rarity Bang Dream cards.
Oh, yeah.
Where they're caught in the tightest fists imaginable by people who cannot be negotiated with. Money is not the issue.
Money's not the issue.
It's availability.
Availability is the issue. So there were 2 Hikaris that I ended up passing on from a seller in Spain on eBay. Because I just ended up getting 4 total before having to buy them.
Right. And they exist. They're out there.
So there's 2 for sale.
Right.
Guaranteed. There's that. Are there any more?
We haven't looked.
No, I have looked.
Oh.
Remember, I looked already.
Yes.
So I could get mine. And I don't see any more.
There may be more in the future. It's unknown. But
it's an unknown.
What we can say for sure is it will be much more complex now that 4 of them are very securely in your grasp and probably never leaving.
Yeah, literally never. Same thing with the 4 Karen secrets. And also the fact that this is max rarity is only possible because I cut all of those pesky Starlight rares that that might have been in the list previously, they don't exist in this like pants stand by door version. So no worries about that. We're not looking for real life girls for this max rarity list.
Yeah, if you thought that the secrets might be somewhat complicated to obtain, the Starlight rares are like trying to dig for diamonds.
In your backyard.
It's just impossible. It doesn't matter how hard you want it. It doesn't matter if you have money. They won't be there.
Yeah. So it's a good thing that I'm playing this fucked up list that has like 3 climaxes in it at a 4-2-2 ratio. And I say 4-2-2 because I want to clarify that I did make the edit that I said I was going to. And it's a 4-2-2 ratio of 4 pants, 2 standby, 2 door. Which makes sense. And which I personally agree with. Right.
Well, congrats.
But I will say that I do have 4 copies of each of those climaxes at max rarity in case I need to make any swap arounds.
That's what a genius. That's what a genius does. He plans ahead.
We did say that we're gonna do a report card for the end of the season, but the season is not technically over. By the time we're saying this, I will have judged at Rosemont, and or by the time you're hearing this, and after Rosemont, München, Singapore, Sydney, and Movo are still remaining as Springfest regionals to be done with. So we're gonna miss like 4 or 5 of them. My bad. But for the most part, season's kind of wrapped. And so with that, it's time to get out the card.
Yeah.
The report card.
I think
for this season. This semester.
Yeah.
As it is.
I think that your status as the most active of the Refresh Point podcasters and my status as the current world champion enable us to judge these sets on their merits. We have the appropriate qualifications.
Don't kid yourself. Even if we all ate shit at Worlds, we'd still be here doing this.
But the fact that we didn't. See, the fact that we didn't. That's what allows us to do this.
Sure. We're going to go down the list in no particular order of sets that were considered top of meta or near meta. And just rate them, rate them based on our expectations of how they should have done and how they actually did. I did shamelessly steal this from I Will Dominate on YouTube, from League YouTube, because he did this for MSI. And I was like, that's a really cool thing to have done. And obviously he had a tier list to compare to. And so he had like, actual accountability for like expectations versus reality. We don't have any of that, but we do have like 6 podcasts that we've recorded in the last few months that talk about our expectations for decks in general. So I feel like it's okay.
We did put out a tier list.
Did we?
At some point.
I mean, it was in the fall.
Was it?
Like CSM didn't exist when we put out a tier list.
Maybe so. Yeah.
But Let's go down the list in no particular order, but starting with Steve's most hated list. It's Slime, and specifically Muron. We're not grading Shizu waifu, but you do get bonus points for existing during this meta in top 8s as well at Duluth.
Yeah.
So Shizu does
two people definitely had the same idea at the same time.
Yeah.
Or one person had an idea and shared it with a friend.
You guys get 10 bonus points for the semester, but you are not getting a grade. But for Muron, I'm gonna grade it. I'm gonna give it a B plus. A B plus. That's what I'm gonna give Muron.
I would say based on the fall,
right,
and Worlds leading into Springfest, my expectations were sky high. I didn't see any reason why this set wouldn't thrive in the meta. Its Chainsaw Man matchup seems good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a C.
A C! Whew! He's disappointed.
It just didn't show with the frequency that I thought it could. Nothing, nothing really changed. There wasn't any,
that's fair.
There was no reason for it to have as few showings as it had. And there were some, obviously, California, they did great. There was weird pockets where a whole bunch of people, like, didn't forget that the set was broken and showed up and stomped. And that's great. I'm glad that we were all aware that the set is still broken. But there were whole regionals where no slime is in the top 8. That feels insane to me. It is the world's most boring deck, so maybe people didn't want to play it because they were just flat tired of it. But
yeah. I mean, that was literally the 2 Shizu players in Duluth. Or at least one of them.
We've won so much. We're just exhausted. We're exhausted from all the winning that we've been doing. It's so boring to just shit kick people every single game. We're gonna nerf ourselves. So yeah.
Sure.
Sorry. That deck is S tier and never left. So.
All right. Yeah. I feel similarly. I think that you are allowed to feel that slime does, in some of its variations, like standby maybe, does like give up some like early game push and can be prone to getting like pushed early and then, you know, having to coin flip stabilizing at level 2. And that's like fair enough to you, but it's just still so strong. Like, and not for nothing, I do feel like the 8 pants with the level 0 Rimuru combo, super valid and also super fine for, you know, just what is it? Just just like jamming climaxes and then making sure you have the Miron climax, which is like a thing that you might not have with which is like a thing you might not have with standby, right? You might be missing out on like pants triggers here and there to like make sure you're recurring the Miron climax with regularity. And you're missing out on the damage push because you're playing a standby, and so if that comes down the field, you don't get extra souls. But I believe in 8 pants. I like Scripted's lists from second place at Belgium. Pretty reasonable. We do the thing. We get the Miron. We punch him in the face. Easy as you like. Just straightforward. I mean, what else can you ask for? It's still the same thing as slime has always been. And now we don't even need the standby at level 1 to like make sure we get to a good board. We just kind of chill and sit on their face and kill them.
I think that the other thing that's worth considering about slime that's changed since Worlds and the introduction of a lot more Chainsaw Man to the format is they have a combo that literally kills their combo guy in the backstage, and sometimes pluses for fun. That's on.
Yeah.
Like,
there's the Milam combo as well.
It just feels like there is no deck out there right now that they cannot answer. Yeah. I'm never not impressed with what they do.
So, but we are unimpressed with what they did do.
Yeah.
Which is
do better.
Not as much.
Yeah.
You know, Miron Slime, you had a lot of promise for this semester.
Didn't live up to expectations.
You did not live up to expectations. As a star student, we expect more of you.
That's right.
And we'll expect more of you in the coming semester. Next up, Overlord. Overlord, I would give it an A. Just a solid A.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement.
It's not played as much, but when it is played, it's played by a good player, and they'll push it. And you know what? Still pretty good.
There's a ton of top 4 finishes for Overlord this season. Just an absolute ton. And it's the same build. There's nothing tricky about it. People have their small iterations they're making, but it's always door bar. It's always using the same overall game plan. And it's being executed well. It's a difficult deck to play.
And arguably in Springfest, it lets you kind of skate by on some of the more scuff games where you get super pushed, you don't block at 2, you don't block at, like those things, and you have like the one bad game mitigated. You have 2 homies.
That's part of it for sure. And also, it's very possible that you're facing a deck that may not have explosive finishing.
Yeah.
And if the game starts to flatten out while you're behind, you will quickly find yourself not behind. It doesn't take much. Especially once you've destroyed the entire board. If your opponent needs characters on board to perform their effects, like a 5 or more, like a full field for their finisher or full field for their early play, it's very annoying to try and sustain through those type of mechanics unless your deck has a whole lot of plussing. And in Springfest, it's likely that there's going to be some decks that don't do super well in those setups. But even despite that, it's a very mature deck. The people that are still playing it, not for nothing, those people are I'm certain, very skilled at playing the deck. So that's nice to see. I 100% agree with the A.
Yeah, solid A, Overlord. Your presence in this class is still small, but your performances are continuously impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Next up, the list, the list that Steve won Worlds with, you might expect to also do well in Springfest. And the answer is yes. Yes, it did. I think I will also give Gura, I'll say specifically, I'll give Kali Gura an A+. And I'll give Standby Gura in itself a B, because I didn't expect it, but I did see it around. And like it did exist, like still in the field, and was performant to some degree. So I'll give Standby Gura a B+. I don't think I saw, like, there weren't as many tops. Let me double check here. So ASCII Gura. Yeah, ASCII Gura had like 7 tops. Wow. I mean, that's, yeah. Like, I'll give ASCII Gura a solid B+.
I agree with Kali Gura, A+ for effort. Nobody played Kali Gura during the last Springfest. All the pieces were there. And now it is half of every top 8, pretty much. Half the teams probably have a Kali Gura somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Great deck, performing very, very well.
Not much else to say. Turns out, it just works.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that was always there. It just needed players to see and adopt and iterate, and you're seeing lots of iterations.
Yeah, for sure.
They're responding to the meta, and they're changing the deck in specific ways to meet certain needs, but the core, sort of 40-ish cards is there. And the downside of Kali Gura is that there isn't that much room to maneuver. The upside is that what is there is extremely strong, and in a meta that's very aggressive and damage-oriented, it rewards that deck very well. So it's nice to see that deck performing extremely well. ASCII Gura always has the pop-off potential that Kali Gura really doesn't have.
Oh yeah, dude. At New York, I had like a great Eno turn in the sense of that I was at level 1 and they were at level 3. The worrying part was that I was at 1/5/6 and they were a Gura that had like 10 stock at level 3.
Yeah. It's terrifying because the triple is very doable. It's not going to happen every game, just like it It
Now,
doesn't
thankfully, he didn't have the hand for that maneuver.
Right, that's the deal.
But, man, I was spooked for a second. I was like, this is definitely double. And, like, 1-5/6 is, like, not... Like, I'm about to refresh the deck here. And, like, if that top deck is spooky, I mean... Ugh.
It's a ton of packets, no question about it. But I think that it suffers from the same problems it always had, which is it's somewhat unreliable and the deck speed is extremely questionable.
Yeah.
So,
although what I will say is, it still was there.
Yeah.
In the field, topping.
It never left.
Top 8ing tournaments.
It never left us.
You know, B+. You know, to the two Gura students, you know, Cali Gura, you know, great performance as expected. You were top of the class last semester, and here you are, you know, contending for top of the class again with another student we'll address later. And Standby Gura, you know, you transferred in and you did perform very well, and you're still pretty good. So solid B+ to you, A+ to Cali Gura, and that's our Gura list. Next up, going down the Hololive train, it's Hololive 8-Buy, which had multiple different kind of variants. I guess
we're mostly talking about ASCII Polka.
Mostly ASCII Polka, but there was also like Polka Nene, Polka Choco. You know, just eight standby in various forms, right? And there was the biggest influx was in Vancouver, I think. And then there was also one on the winning team in Houston, to be fair. And also in Spain, and so as we talked about when we discussed Vancouver, they seem to really enjoy their standbys up there in the Great White North. But in general, for 8 standby Hololive, I think I'll give it an A-. We're skating right there. Because I did not expect much from it at all, to be honest.
I think I'll give it a B+.
B+. All right, yeah. We're landing around the same spot.
The reason I say that is because this is the type of set that has had good results around it for some time, but it feels like the quintessential bridesmaid deck.
Right, yeah.
It's near the top.
Uh-huh.
It's around the top.
Right.
It's performing adequately.
I mean, it won a regional.
But it rarely wins.
Yeah.
And a lot of times just kind of seems to fall short once the field starts to narrow a little bit.
Sure.
It's like a bully deck.
Right.
If you're not equipped to deal with what they're throwing out, then you can get beat up real bad.
Yeah, I will say that I did witness a Nene player going into the Good Doctor in New York, and it's spooky, but also, like, your burn is on a coin flip, man. Like, your burn's on a coin flip.
It's
like, you know, there's not much more to say. Like, your burn's on a coin flip, man. Like, I saw, like, the Good Doctor was at 3-1, and this guy just whiffs the burn 3 on a second Nene and gets blocked down, and the Doctor lives. And I'm just like,
yeah.
Well, that was spooky for a whole 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's tough. That's a tough version of the deck to execute. I definitely prefer the Polka list, which is even less flashy.
Right, yeah.
It's just
get out the Luna.
It's a good old-fashioned grinder.
Yeah.
Where it just throws in a few extra packets, throws in a few extra defensive maneuvers, and just tries to win a real honest game of Weiss Schwarz by hitting you for 2 and 1 and 3 over and over again.
Yep. Easy as you like. So, I did not expect much at all. And thus, being present and even winning a tournament exceeded my expectations. So I'll give it a good old A-. and you did well. Maybe next year you could put in that little bit of extra effort and really push it to the limits.
Been a great season for Hololive in general.
In general, yeah. Except for one list, kind of. Kanadamari. Not super present. I almost debated not talking about it, but then again, it is still like a very solid near meta list. So very much not. And it did win Vancouver, but was not super present in many other places.
Yeah, I struggled to grade this set because the lens that we're viewing it through.
I had low expectations.
Yeah.
But it was here.
Yeah.
Which is honestly better than I gave it credit for. And so in a similar vein, I'll give it an A.
You're the best professor of all time.
I'm the kindest professor of all time.
Honestly.
I think I just really didn't think it would really be here. Like, stabilizing at 2, not a super great thing if your name is an Overlord or Slime,
It's one of those sets that will never be bad as long as the game supports value engines in the mid game followed by cheap finishing.
You know what?
That's a formula that doesn't get old.
You know what? Like we just said, Slime does that formula. And to an extent, Overlord does that formula. And so, I guess easy enough.
It's one of those things where its formula is inherently more risky than the other two.
Right.
You're even more vulnerable to your opponent's counterplay. You don't have hexproof. You don't have tremendous power, generally speaking. You don't have any way. You're an early play. So you have all the weaknesses of anti-early counters, anti-early bombs. Your payoff is very similar to Muron, but a bit better in the sense that you can control it.
And you can heal down
correct
more.
a little bit.
Yeah.
You'll get a couple heals for sure. Repeated healing is probably never happening, so you're a bit.
Just be good, Steve. Why don't you just draw the stock soul every turn after level 2 until level 3, where you just need the door instead?
That's the actual difficult part of the set, and honestly, why it's worse than the other two is climax availability.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't. Bar is just so much easier to pick up, and Pants is so much easier to pick up. That's kind of the biggest difference maker, in those sets.
Yeah. So, what is your grade, Steve?
I would say a solid B.
A solid B.
Performed exactly as I expect that deck to win every once in a while. It's not going to win all the time. It's not going to win frequently, and I imagine as time goes on, the ban list will be a huge driver for that deck, because Marine is the best finisher in the set if Gura goes away. So
it's still a super efficient triple burn too.
It's 6 packets, easy as you like, and takes almost no setup.
Just send it down the lane.
And it's on door.
We love door.
So I don't know. That set is one of those sets that's got a lot of potential.
All right. Next up, we're done with Hololive for now. If your niche Hololive list didn't make it in, sorry, I guess. We didn't expect anything from you. But if we didn't, I'm not sure, but if we didn't cover one of the Hololive lists in the top 8, you get bonus points. Congratulations for being here. Actually, wait, that's a lie. So there was the Rushia list on the 4th place team in Duluth.
Yeah.
That I can remember, at least. So props to you. A+ to you, because I did not expect a Rushia to be here. But you took Mume Rushia here. And that's pretty gangster.
It's crazy.
And now, moving on to the expected top student of the class, Chainsaw Man.
Yep.
Chainsaw Man gets an A+, but it's almost like, did I really have to do this? Chainsaw Man really showed up to every class this semester and just like
straight hundreds.
Just like didn't look at a single lecture, didn't take a single note down, just walks into every class, passes in the homework, it's already done, it's 100, walks into every test, walks out 10 minutes later, perfect clear, you know.
Our expectations were sky high, and it managed to meet or exceed every single one of those
It
expectations.
got a Nobel Peace Prize just like along the way of the class. Like it didn't have to do that, but it did. It just, you know, it did everything. I think at minimum, it was at least 50% of every top 8 this season.
Yes.
And when I say 50, to be fair, that's because there's like 2 where there was 50%. And the rest of them, there were a minimum 6 Chainsaw Man lists in every top 8.
That is a fairly...
On a quick control F on the Weiss Teton page, there were 72 Chainsaw Man lists in this season, not even counting the next 5.
Yeah.
For context, Caligur at 33.
Yeah. So...
Or Gura in general. But yeah.
This is it. This is the best deck in the format. It's the premier finishing mechanics. It's the premier resource mechanics. It has every tool. It has every answer. It has very little ways to work around it. It's got everything that it needs to succeed. This is just... It's the type of deck that's fairly unparalleled in the history of Weiss.
The mirror is the biggest coin flip of your entire life. Because, yeah, you're going to get there. And he's going to get there. Barring, like, extreme difficulties, right? I'm talking, like, revenge penaltied or take it as damage every single deck refresh. Every single point of damage, you know, like, just never see the Himeno. Never see a climax somehow. Like, just, like, the worst difficulties. Like... If it's all even, let's be real. Who gets hit to level 3 first? Okay. Well, you got hit to level 3 first. Did you win the coin flip? No? Alright. My turn. Do I win the coin flip? Alright.
Yeah, it's the type of dominance that's been seen in the game before, but I'm not sure to this level. There were definitely times in the game where there was a deck that was head and shoulders above everybody else. The 2 most obvious examples were... the late 2010s when Attack on Titan, especially after Set 2 came out, was by far the most dominant deck in the game, and it won Worlds several times, and it was simply overpowering to face. It was beatable. CSM is beatable, but you felt like you were kind of on the back foot before the game started, because you knew you would be faced with an overwhelming set of mechanics that nobody else had, and that were very difficult to respond to. So the other time was very early in the game. The Kante collection set had anti-salvage, anti-heal, and had what was essentially the very first of the anti-damage style counters for English. So it felt very overwhelming to face in its day as well, because it restricted the resources of most decks to such an extreme degree. And so the people who've been playing the game for a long time have had these feelings before, but I can't recall the community recoiling from a deck so powerfully as they do from CSM. This is the type of deck that can demoralize a local. This is the type of deck that can make your friends not want to play Weiss with you. Because
I mean, it kind of we can already even see it. And like even in our local, like the second Springfest stopped, it was like, nobody's playing Chainsaw Man. Or except for like one person. Maybe 2 people. Because they don't really want to play anything else. But like everybody that was playing Chainsaw Man for the sake of playing it for Springfest immediately went to go play something else. Because no. Fuck it. Fuck that deck.
And that's the thing, is that the local we have here is a very competitive minded, very competitive focused local. All of them. And so... it says something about the game when a highly motivated, highly competitive playgroup decides this deck that is clearly the best deck in the format, we don't want to play it. And we don't want to play against it. Because it just sucks. It sucks to play with. It sucks to play against it.
It's so, and the most annoying thing about it is the finisher in my eyes, honestly, because plenty of decks have had good resource engines.
Yeah.
Right. Plenty of decks can just make sure that their gameplay is very consistent every single time. Right. But this is the most 60% of the time it works every time finisher fucking ever. Like there isn't a mill 8-ish icy tail that exists otherwise. And it's such a coin flip. And even though it feels so consistent, and you'll get triple every time, and you'll have like 3-4 easy revenges every time, sometimes it just doesn't work.
It reminds me a lot of what SDS was pre-nerf. But the difference is that SDS pre-nerf, even though it had all the tools to just delete you in 1 second with very little counterplay, the setup was so much harder.
Right, yeah.
Like,
you need the bounce, you need the hand, all the stock.
Getting triple of the finisher was so hard to pull off because the bond was specific. You needed to discard a specific card. And so you needed the 3, the 0, the climax, the bouncer, and it was such a difficult setup. Aki's main frustration is how it never seems to be struggling, and any problem that it seems to be having is easily resolved.
Did you need stock? Makima. Did you need more stock? Aki over the Makima, salvage the Makima. Now you have stock.
Or do you need deck speed? You could brainstorm with this guy that destroys your characters to brainstorm, and then you could play over the brainstorm with the guy that pitches a card to salvage the brainstorm so you can brainstorm again.
Oh, the brainstorm is a check 3 on each hit. So if that hit like once, you're probably good already.
Yeah.
You also don't need characters.
No.
You just don't need characters. You can feel the board every single turn. You'll figure it out. It's Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, that's
even if you don't play Kashibe and you just feel full shitters every turn, whatever.
Yeah.
It'll work. Shitters will work.
This was not meant to divert the entirety of this segment into a Chainsaw Man hating party, but we are definitely getting out some emotions from this because we've both been playing with and against this deck a lot, and I think the community is really experiencing some serious like fatigue because of Chainsaw
It's
Man.
almost infuriating how easy it is to play every time I play it.
Yeah.
Like any half decent Weiss player will pick up the deck, be like, oh, and then it just works. It just works. You'll get it. You'll just get it. And like what you need to practice for was like the weird scenarios, like with every deck. But like 99.9% of the time, if you are like even half decent at Weiss and you pick up Chainsaw Man, you can get off a triple Aki with at least 2 easy revenges every single game.
Yeah, it's definitely a contentious deck. I think that it
top marks.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Enjoy your vacation and maybe never come back. Just go graduate. It's all good.
Yeah, you don't need to learn anything else from us.
There's nothing else for you to learn here, Chainsaw Man.
Else.
There's nothing else for you to learn. Speaking of Escanor, after he left, another one rose.
Yes.
Hendrickson.
Yes.
California's favorite.
Yep.
I would rate it a B+.
I
hover between a B+ and an A-.
Yeah, that seems like the right place for it. It's a deck that is being piloted by a non-trivial amount of players who really enjoy the game plan that it offers in the end, which is decompression. So,
and not for nothing, just like the fairly consistent early game.
Right, and so this is a deck that's very SDS reminds me a lot of Chainsaw Man in the sense that it offers a similar set of strengths where we have resource engines that come from the backstage that are very easy to repeatedly spam, followed by a decompression-based endgame that, if set up correctly, kind of makes light of your opponent's ability to compress against it. The difference here being is that Hendrickson can just straight up delete you from nowhere. Burn 4 after scrying the top of your opponent's deck is an extremely dangerous finishing mechanic. When it's paired with stock swap and forced reshuffling, then yeah, it's extremely spooky.
Extremely spooky. Performed fairly well. Just to double check, like, yeah, just 16 total tops of STS. There was an Elizabeth Meliodas list that got in there, so shout outs to that homie.
Yeah.
Also King Meliodas.
Meliodas.
Mexico City, yeah. Banger. But for the most part, lots of Elizabeth Hendrickson players, a lot of them from California, including the Duluth winner. Shout outs to Long. And so, yeah. Pretty good deck. It did just work, and it worked a lot. So, B+, good effort. Did well. Slightly for the sake of time, here are the quints, the girls.
Yeah.
Also, specifically, the relevant ones. Miku, you're not good yet. Yotsuba, you're just not good, sorry. Ichika, Itsuki, Nino.
Yep. The big three.
The big three. Ichika, I'm going to give a... man, I mean, I almost forgot about it.
It's one of those decks.
I'll give it... It did exist in the top 8. I'm giving Ichika the C+.
Yeah, I think that it just doesn't have...
It didn't have that many pilots, probably, either.
That's the issue, is that there's not a lot of people playing it.
Yeah.
Even... It seems like a game plan that's very reasonable to me. I've faced it. One thing I will say, the biggest difference between Ichika this year and Ichika last year is that it had a very workable Alice matchup.
Right.
And so when that deck sort of left, then it fell off because some of its other matchups aren't as good.
Right. Turns out board wiping is kind of cringe.
True.
Turns out 13-5 swinging also kind of cringe.
Yeah, it's they have some tough matchups in the meta. Nino,
3.
I think
Nino, man. What do we say about Nino?
Yeah, what can we say about Nino that's never been said?
It's still probably the best standby deck in the format, right?
Either that or Hololive, yeah.
Yeah, that or Hololive. I would still rate Nino over the Hololive list, though, honestly. Well, it does more.
I feel like what separates Nino from other standby lists...
I guess it's not as defensive, right?
It's a
more offensive-oriented list.
It also has greater reliability because it has a zillion ways to scry the trigger.
Dude, the trigger checks are insane for Nino.
Yeah.
It just pushes.
If Nino...
there's the old saying that standby doesn't push damage, but hear me out. I think Nino pushes damage. I think it does.
It's also more... They get to decide how many standbys they want from 0 to however many is needed to get the job done.
Yeah.
And it's also a 12-buy deck.
Yeah, not for nothing.
Which Hololive doesn't have.
That's true.
So
Nino, I'll give it a B+.
Yeah, let's give it a B. We love Nino.
Nino, now that
Nino is power balanced with the rest of the format, we love Nino. A year ago when Nino was just hard stomping everybody, we hated it. But we like a little more balance to the format here at the refresh point. So.
Sure. And Itsuki, I'll also give a B.
I'll give an A to Itsuki.
You'll give it A. You expected nothing.
No.
Wow. Just like scrying and burn 3 isn't good enough for you, Steve?
I just don't believe in that deck's mid game at all. It does.
I will say, I think people swapped, and shout-outs to one of our locals for playing it a little bit more earlier than I think I saw other people doing it. I saw a lot more people playing the 2-1 combo.
Yeah, I've noticed the 2-1 combo kind of sneaking into the game. My Itsuki deck is still piloted as the original intent with the level 1 combo, but I think the level 2 combo is totally reasonable. I think the biggest thing that limits Itsuki is not a great, like, very counter dependent in order to keep the board stable. Needs a ton of hand, which means it's highly vulnerable to like getting unstable. But
Right, yeah.
but has one of the best early play answers in the game. Has tons of great healing opportunities, which we know and love now. We love healing, especially against Aki. So that part of it's really nice. And the finisher is still extremely good. It will absolutely kill you.
Yeah, dude. That shit hurts.
And it almost never fails to, you're checking 9, the climax is happening. It's just happening.
It's gonna happen. Yeah. So you know what? That's fair. You know, you've convinced me. I'll put it to a B+ because I did expect this level of performance. You expected nothing, so fair enough to you. I expected about this much, and I got it.
Nice.
Next up, Avatar: Last Airbender.
Oh, Avatar.
Avatar.
What are
man,
what are we gonna
you
do
know,
with you?
You're a problem student. Not because you're not smart. You might be too smart. You're just like CSM. The problem is CSM, you know, they were too good. But you kind of flew under the radar, Atla. You kind of flew under the radar. Just a little bit. In the sense of like everybody was too busy complaining about CSM. They didn't see fucking 10 packets coming down the lane to kill ya from 1-5.
Yeah. Atla definitely gets an A for me.
Atla gets an A for me too.
I am terrified of this deck and have been for a while. Some of the best players.
The doctor told me, he said something and I realized that I just couldn't really contest it. And he was like, if the game is going normally for me, then I can't lose. And I was like, you've only lost 3 times in the last 3 regionals. I don't think I can contest that. Like every single time that I see the doctor at level 3 and I'm like looking across the way as he's piloting Atla and I just see, and I know he's got the standby or the bar and the Momo. He has 2 Azulas. He uses the Sokka. There's a Tylee in the waiting room. He's at 3-1, 3-0. What's the opponent at? 2-4? Whatever. 2-5? Whatever. 3-0? He's dead. Send him home.
Beanwolf expressed a very similar sentiment on Twitter after playing Atla and going undefeated with it.
Yeah, shoutouts to Beanwolf. I'll get you your first seconds later. I forgot to bring them to New York.
Nice.
But by the time this comes out, he'll have received them in Rosemont. So
yeah, he was basically of the same mindset on Twitter where he was like, this deck has no weaknesses. It has the ability to manage almost any game state, hand state, deck state, and has tremendous overpowering endgame.
Yeah, dude. It's the biggest scare. The biggest scare for any potential ban list announcement isn't, are they going to hit Chainsaw Man enough?
No.
It's, is Atla going to skate out the back door?
Yeah. Atla is,
surely not.
Atla's the most worrying. Atla and Slime are both worrying to me because it seems obvious at this point that that Gura and Aki, their days are numbered. Their finished numbers are off in the stratosphere. But those other 2 decks are kind of skating where they're getting 1 or 2, top 8 finishes per regional, and because piloting, because lots of reasons. But those sets are both spooky, unbelievably spooky. And in the case of Slime, it's one of those things where it's just, I don't know, it's been good for so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, if Sokka survives a ban list, then I mean we'll be talking about a new best deck in the format.
Dude, like if Sokka survives the ban list, fucking like everybody's gonna be like every set with a memory counter in it is gonna be like, it's time. If I didn't already have the memory counter in this list, we gotta play that like every turn we can. If they slam that socket down, we gotta figure out ways. Like we gotta do like.
We got a JC.
There's the we gotta get JCs.
Yeah.
We gotta get 2 of them. You know,
Yeah.
we gotta
run for the hills. We cannot get reversed.
We gotta do everything. But that's even the worst part. Because that counterplay is easily counterplayed. Because as long as the second they see you sculpting the JCs, they're like, oh, well, I don't need this 3-2. I just need this 2-2. That sacrifices Sokka.
Yeah.
Well. Here comes 8 packets anyway.
Yeah,
well,
or not for nothing, they can recycle the zeros and give minus power till your JC dies.
Yeah. That's also possible.
But hopefully your JC.
If you saw Steve's little avatar puzzle, Shizukatsu figured out with the UA you can get 9 packets. So there was an even more optimal solution than what we'd already seen.
Yeah.
So not for nothing, even the Eno board that you can construct that he referenced has a power on it, a 3K JC, a hexproof, it's a 2 guys in front, like just the most annoying setup for an avatar player to deal with, and it's still possible for them to answer every single part of it and get 9 packets off.
Yeah.
So yeah,
just admit you were wrong. That's all we're asking. Bushiroad, just admit you were wrong. That this profile was never meant to be played this way. Just admit it. It's okay to be wrong.
You know what's even a worse idea? That they just designed it, they saw it, but then they didn't like optimize it that much. And so they're like, oh, I mean,
it's probably fine.
It's like a cute little 6-7 packets. Like that's reasonable.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I think the biggest difference between Ayame and Sokka is that the community didn't seize on Sokka as quickly.
Whereas Sokka was a secret devil.
Whereas Ayame, people were immediately like, here's 2 souls, here's a way I can kill my opponent at level 1. And they saw that and they were like, ooh, that's probably bad. We shouldn't let that happen. But at the same time, this thing is equally good and way more reliable and has a actual real deck bolted into it instead of here sacrifice your entire 0 game for this one neat trick that may get blocked down and then you lose the game. Like
yeah. No, and what's even it's so good. Like and like all the additional uses too, just like scamming the extra attacks in the mid game, even the early game, you know? Have the socket in the back. Oh, I triggered standby. Oh, did I not have 3-1 combos? I got 3-1 combos. I got you. Boom.
Yeah. And anytime there's open lanes, it's just free real estate for more hits. So.
Yeah, that's the thing with the quote unquote JC counterplay too, right? Well, now you have open lanes. Now it's open season.
Yeah, now instead of hitting for 1, sometimes 2, it's guaranteed 2 and sometimes 3.
I expected you to do well, Atla, and I worry that you will not be restrained going into the next semester.
Yeah.
But for this semester, here's your A.
For sure.
Congratulations. Azure Lane. Like, after all of that that we just did, I guess it did get, at the time that we're looking, it did get 7 tops. Like a bunch of random stuff, like, you know, everything from doors to bars to pantses to 8-2 soul, like, just a bunch of different stuff all around.
It has there's a ton of top 8s in there, not very many top 4s.
Right.
That's about what I expect from Azure Lane, so I'll go with a B. Extremely flexible set, lots of ways to build it. Thought it would do okay, did do okay.
Solid B. I can say the same. Come back next year, maybe you can solidify on a single list that's like the best from the set, and maybe we can all decide what the best one is.
Yeah, exactly.
Spy
gets an F for me.
An F?
Yeah.
Wow! Oh my god! I give it a C.
This set.
I don't think it failed. I mean, it got to top 8s.
This set failed to produce the kinds of results that I thought were possible from it.
Wow.
It just didn't do that much. It did not capitalize on the type of.
We just won three regionals, and it's just not good enough.
No.
Wow, your expectations of this student were sky high, Steve.
My expectations were very high. I didn't realize they had won 3 of them. But
I'm gonna say, 3 regionals isn't good enough, Steve.
It's the quantity.
17 tops.
It's the quantity. Yeah, I felt like it should have more tops.
You thought it would be like Cali. You thought it would be like Gura.
I didn't think it would be as good as Gura, but I expected a little closer. Where this is the type of deck that shouldn't struggle. It's got one of the most solid early games. It's got maybe the best one combo in existence in isolation. Granted, some of the finishing a little bit questionable, but
I feel like you haven't played enough Spy, man. That one combo shits all over itself so many goddamn times. I swear to God. And like every other game, I fight a Spy player.
Not in 8 pants.
Yes, still. They'll just be like, well, I have 2 1 combos, but only 1 Nightfall in the waiting room. Guess I'll eat shit and die. And I'll be like, cool, thanks. You know, like, I don't know, man.
I guess.
Theoretically, yes. I agree with you. And my expectations were similarly high. Not as sky high, similarly high. But as the season went on, like, it just... If you don't get there, which is more common than it really has any right to be having, like, it really does fall apart.
I think the biggest thing for me in terms of Spy is that the larger events, they kind of fell flat. Like, they did really well in some smaller events. The events they won were on the smaller end. When they were faced with bigger events, 40 plus teams, it just didn't get there. And so I thought there were some good innovation. I thought people tried a whole bunch of different types of builds, which I really liked. But overall, yeah, I thought that I especially thought 8 pants would do better than it did.
All right, fair enough.
So I think the potential is for sure there.
Yeah, Spy, you disappointed us. You too had more potential to be given, more so than Slime to some degree.
Yeah,
and you fell flat. And
it's okay.
And we
there's always more.
There were plenty of Spy pilots too. Popular set, good mechanics, you know, lots of stuff going on, and it just not as good as you could have done.
No.
And so Steve's failing you. Like you said, I'm the nicest professor ever, so I'm giving you a C, Spy. But I expect better from you next semester.
Yep.
Come back strong.
Yep.
Come back strong.
For sure.
Finally, Guilty Gear Strive.
I'm going to go with an A here.
I'm going to go with an A here. I'm going to go with an A+. Because I expected fuck all nothing.
Really?
I'll be real. I did not expect Standby Bar to do as well, nearly as well as it ended up doing. Also, shout out, of course, to Avis, whose Eno list was so strong that I literally pivoted to it to try to just game with it at New York.
We saw a ton of different Guilty Gear Strive lists during the season. We saw Kai Ram. We saw Kai Gold Lewis Ram. We saw Jacko Ram.
Oh, Gold Lewis, too.
Jacko Bikin Ram.
Shoutouts to Gold Lewis.
Yes.
For coming in hot.
My goat.
You know, is good.
I didn't believe in him.
But now we do.
But now we definitely do.
The Secretary of Absolute Defense.
Yes. And it turns out free resources make the end game a lot simpler than it needs to be.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, the standby decks really
top-notch performance. I expected fuck all nothing from them, and they performed.
Yeah,
good stuff.
I honestly have never once been able to make the standby versions of that deck do very much. So, yeah, incredible performance.
It's just not, you know, this student It's just they think differently from you, Steve.
Yep.
They're able to solve the problems differently from you.
Yep.
They don't need sharks all the time.
That's
Sometimes you just need 2 big-ass laser cannons.
Fair enough. Yeah.
2 big-ass laser swords.
So this is another set that, yeah, I mean, not going anywhere anytime soon. Definitely has play in the meta. Absolutely.
We underestimated you, Guilty Gear, but you're here and you're sticking around. Shoutouts to you. And that's our report card. And honestly, that's also our episode. Just about.
Yeah.
Pretty good stuff. Next time, I guess it was, in a sense, it was kind of like a pseudo spike corner. Let's be real. That was a spike corner under a different name. Next time on a spike corner, we'll talk about burnout and motivation in general in playing games and other hobbies and competing. But for this time, that's our spring semester report card. We had some winners. We had some very big losers. Some pants focused decks needed to really put their pants back on and get to stepping.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we'll see what happens next as soon as the fall hits.
Ayakashi Triangle's coming out. Do we believe in healing down 3 times every turn?
I think
with early plays at level 2.
I think it's important to explore all avenues of victory. So
yeah.
Maybe we're headed back towards a more healing focused meta.
It could be
in the mid game. Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. Yeah, and you could even see it in some of the slime lists. There's because in some of the fall slime lists, you saw that there were even just no early play healers.
None.
In some of those lists.
Yeah.
But as time has progressed, and even throughout the spring, 1, 2 even of the Shuna early play healer. That's 4 more. More use of potions in matchups where hexproof and power isn't as relevant. Like your Mirons are guaranteed to be on the board anyway, so just use potions and either heal or generate even more resource to snowball the game. We saw a lot more usage of that in the slime list that did make it, and I think it makes sense. We're trying to live.
Yeah.
It's more of we're trying to live even in this meta of death.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that Aki has caused the meta to do is to re-examine what happens in the mid game. We can't just rush towards the end game with wild abandon. We have to examine what the game state actually looks like, what our victory states actually look like, so that we can arrive at them more frequently. During Worlds, I never expected slime to heal, ever, and they never did. So same with Avatar, where I know in my gut that they will not heal.
I mean, they don't even run a healer.
No, and they never will.
No,
because
unimportant.
Right.
Be at level 3,
and because they have color considerations that they have to kind of
manage,
tiptoe around. But ultimately, I think that the game is never static. As long as new sets are being released and new strategies are being formed, the rest of the meta has to respond to that. And one of the things that's going to happen with the next ban list update will be an entire re-examination of what's good in the game still after that, what became good because it happened, or what stopped being good because it happened.
That assumes that there's a ban list.
There will be.
For sure.
I have faith.
When will this be?
I don't know, but I assume it will be before the...
You think it's before?
I think it'll be before the fall season kicks off.
You think it's before fall season? Okay.
Sure.
Okay. All right. You want to bet on that?
Oh, gosh. What would I wager?
What do we wager? Yeah. I'm trying to think about it. Yeah. Because it's fun. It's fun to do bets. My bet is that the ban list comes after the fall season begins. That's my bet.
I think that's happened before. Yeah.
And that's happened before. Okay. Let's do... we're both food enjoyers.
Sure.
We like eating good food. We like eating spicy food even at times. We just get a ridiculously spicy hot sauce.
Okay.
Whoever If the ban list comes out before the fall season, I'll eat some of it.
Yeah.
And if it comes out any time after that or not at all, you get it. So basically, we'll know once the fall season begins, and I'll say specifically, we'll say like the regionals.
Right.
We don't count the shop challenges. That doesn't fucking matter.
Nobody counts those.
October, regional season begins.
Yeah.
If no ban list,
Yeah.
you eat it.
All right.
All right.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. And that's our show for today. So tune in next time after your next tech out. And don't you forget to take the refresh point.